Who is Randy?
Don't bring anyone mother into this.
Yo, mom in the fucking stand!
All right. The way this show is recorded in advance, we didn't have the chance to have this in an episode for this week, but we wanted to talk about Brody Stevens, Brody Stevens, who sadly took his own life just late last week, and I didn't want to have it in a show where it goes up like 2 weeks later. Yeah. So I thought it was pretty appropriate to talk about this really once in a lifetime, one of a kind person and comedian who we both knew for over a decade and really left an impact with just being such a special talent and human being. I haven't
cried yet. Now they're just talking about him. And looking at him.
I know. He's a sweet guy. For those of you that don't know, you should do a little digging. Brody was this really original voice as a comic, and what I mean is, like, you hear that a lot in stand-up. You know, you got to do stand-up for a long time to find out who you are. And I'm telling you, you'll hear people say, "Oh, there's no one like." There really, really, really is nobody. There was nobody like him. You'll never see anybody like him.
No. I mean, he was one of those guys that the first time you saw Brody Stevens, like, I remember the first time my friend Eric and I saw him at the Improv, and we were like, you can do that?
Yeah.
You can just be free and break the rules and, like, God, and just be out there.
I remember I fanboyed really hard on him when I first saw him because, I understood that how different it was, but also how there's no way I could do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way, nothing.
I hate that picture.
So you get kind of
so sweet.
I know. You get kind of like, I was mesmerized by him, you know? And
everybody was. I feel like we all, every comic loved him, and we all talked about how funny he is and which is crazy to even say. It's only been a few days since his passing, and I think the first 2 days I was just in disbelief. I still can't believe that he's gone. I hate it.
He really, Brody had this whole thing about positivity and keep
positive, push
and believe. He would say these things on stage, but it was an extension of reality because he would say it off stage. He would tweet it. He would say it he was the Prince of Periscope. He would say it there. And he would, you always smiled when you saw him. I would see him less and less frequently because he would always, he'd close out the store a lot. You know,
they give him that late spot because people didn't know what to do with Brody.
They didn't know what to do. And they also, I mean, there's... Like, you're not gonna follow him.
No,
you know? So
because he would go up with drumsticks
and tambourines,
and music, and
he would beat his tambourine.
Yeah.
I remember my first memories of Brody were seeing him in these. You know, I used to do a lot of these bar shows. You just get randomly booked on some bar show on Sunset or somewhere in Santa Monica. It was just like the stage time you could get. Every once in a while, I'd be on a show with Brody. And, I remember I laughed so fucking hard because, again, it was such a departure from what most comics were doing. You know, let's say, get up there and, you get into I talked to my mom today, or, I just saw this movie, and he didn't sound like anybody else.
No.
And he was well, eventually people learned they did this, but like I still remember the first time I saw him on one of these bar shows listing his credits. And like I was like, wait, what? Because I'd never seen anybody do that.
Yeah.
And then he chastised a guy who didn't have positive energy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was in The Hangover 2, Due Date. Eventually he as these credits
Chelsea lately did warm up for Chelsea.
Oh, the warm-ups was another part. But then he would go, eventually he was like, I was cut out of Funny People, that movie. And then sometimes he'd be like, what have you done, sir?
Yeah.
To like a guy at a comedy show.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what have you
funny.
done? Because the guy didn't laugh at the previous joke.
What is that joke? Do you remember he had? I go to the batting cage, catch a few balls.
Yeah, I catch a few. I'm intense. I sweat in the shower. Yeah.
No, and he, I
have BO in the shower.
I have BO in the shower.
Yeah.
And he also, he grew up in the same neighborhood that I did. And he even lived in the same apartment building that I did.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when, and then I would bring that up to him. He also had this like savant like memory of everything in the valley.
That's what I was about to say. His world was the Snoopy Bridge, Reseda. Like he could rattle off
Magnolia Boulevard, and then he would know like delis and liquor stores and just all
Mort's Deli. Where is that? The corner of Reseda and Shoup, or whatever.
And then he would
rattle
left
off
something off the menu.
Yeah,
he had he loved baseball. He loved Arizona State baseball, Dodgers. When he found out I grew up or spent some time in Vero Beach, he was like, it's Dodger Town. That's where the Dodgers did spring training. So that lit him up. He would see me mention that. Then, he knew I liked Florida State football. He wasn't as much into football as baseball, but then he would see me and he'd be like, how's the season? And I was like, yeah, I just love watching the games because I go, you get, as a fan, I get an emotional reward from watching sports I like. He's like, that's because you get it, and there was another.
She gets it.
Yeah. His other, one of his catchphrases was, you get it, and, some crowds don't get me. He would say that at the beginning of a set sometime, which is also nuts to be like, crowds don't get me. He just started.
He was a comedian's favorite.
Yeah, and everybody liked watching.
I remember when I fell in love with Brody Stevens when I was working on Chelsea lately.
I love this. Yeah.
And I remember, Tommy, I'd work on that show, and I got to be honest, and this is probably why I got fired from that show as a writer, but I didn't laugh a lot in the writer's room. There's a couple moments, I just think, I'm not shitting on the show. I'm just saying a sensibility. I don't know if I was a great match, which is why I got shit canned. But my favorite part of my day was when we would roll tape at 2:00. We would tape the show. And I would sneak down, because then you're not really supposed to go down there to the studio. Well, the audience was filing in, and Brody was our warm-up comedian, which means they get the crowd in the mood. He cues them to laugh when they're supposed to laugh.
It's a rough gig, by the way.
It's very hard.
Audience warm-up is not... This is taped shows.
It's a skill. It's a big skill.
What you see is 22 minutes, and people are there for a couple hours. And you have to have high energy. Yeah. And because I remember you used to come in.
I would come home and
tell me about Brody.
What Brody did.
Yeah.
I would come home and have tales of what Brody Stevens did.
That was the full report. Is just
I didn't give a fuck about what celebrity had come in. I didn't give a fuck about the jokes I had written.
And also, I would wait for you and be like, how was warm up today?
Yeah. So my favorite part of that is that, these girls that were Chelsea fans were these cute 20-year-old, they would go to the mall and they'd get their cute little outfits. They're Forever 20. And they come in dressed to the nines, just ready to have their Chelsea experience. And here's Brody Stevens, who couldn't be more of a mismatch for that audience. Yeah. And that's part of the fun is that he was fucking like these little teeny bobber girls. And he would have the tambourine, and then he would have that toy in kindergarten, that instrument. I don't know what it's called. It makes like a froggy sound.
Yeah.
And then he would be like, yes, positive, push. Chelsea needs energy. And then she gives you energy. You give her energy. And then the best part is when you would tell a joke on the round table, and I would watch a comic rattle off a joke, and then immediately I look to Brody. And then Brody would be cueing the audience to laugh even if it wasn't funny. And this is his face. He would always go, laugh.
Yeah. I remember too, you used to tell me how he would be like, this side of the crowd, nothing. You guys are terrible. Over here, good. Like chastising people who are just like, I thought we were just watching this show.
Yeah, they don't know what they're. And I used to say, I remember begging Chelsea Handler, like, please, let's put Brody in sketches. Can we put Brody? Can we set him up on dates or something and record it? Because he's just so fascinating. And she's like, oh no, he's too out there. It wasn't the sensibility.
He ended up, so like he would do that thing again, super unique about listing his credits. And then a big thing,
The credit
sometimes
listing.
when he was on those shows, like doing stand-up, he'd be like,
Hangover.
I've done over 2,000 audience warm-ups. Like, you don't think I know what I'm doing up here? Which is like, again, like so bananas like to say that. But hilarious. And you just laugh like, that dude just listed off his audience warm-ups.
Yeah, or my favorite too is when he loved Starbucks and he always would go to the same one in the Valley.
We would
So
connect.
do you, yeah.
Do you know what he used to tell me? Familiarity. So I would just go, dude, I love Starbucks too. You know, I always look around the room. He's like, familiarity. You know what you're getting. That's why I like it. I was like, yeah, exactly.
That's so silly.
I know.
Familiarity. Yeah, he had he loved the Valley 818. That was his thing, and we loved him. He made the Valley a cool place to be.
Yeah.
And, and it's so fucked up when people die suddenly this way is that you just see them. We just saw him. We just spoke with him.
I just saw him the week before, and recently, a lot of times you're at the store in those hallways, in that hallway between the OR and the main room.
Yeah.
It's just comedian traffic, moving back and forth. And there's a lot of like daps and like, and I just given him one the week before. You walked by the hall. What's up, man? And then you're talking to somebody else. Yeah. And that'll be my last memory.
Well, I think what's troubling is that I had a pretty good discussion with him a couple weeks back, and he did seem flatter, like gray.
Yeah.
But I know it's because he was tooling with meds and figuring, I don't know. And he usually would reach out and say, Christina, I'm depressed right now. Or he would always be forthcoming, like, I'm having trouble right now. I'm depressed right now. And we talk about it. But the fact that he didn't, he didn't say anything.
I know. And it's like,
and that's the saddest part. That's what I'm saying is that, especially in our community with comics, everybody's so open to talking about depression and all this stuff. Anyway, if you are sad or depressed, please reach out to people, man. I can't convey that enough. People want to help you.
Yeah, I would say that
the
flip side of that, though, is that a lot of times people in that position don't have the ability or the tools to.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody like that, reach out to them. Reach out to them if you can.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they don't have the ability to reach out to you. But there's a lot of great Brody stuff out there if you want to familiarize yourself with him if you weren't aware. I just saw this great D'Elia story. If you Google or YouTube search Chris D'Elia, he told it a while ago. It was a while ago. He talks about like the craziest night he ever saw at the Comedy Store, and it was all about Brody, and like in the best way. It was like, it's a great story where he talks about Brody up there just killing, and the next comic is like, keep going, you do my set, like take my 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
that's
it kept
great.
going. And he saw it like, I think before he was even really working that much at the club.
That's funny.
And it's a great story.
And think people, he's funny, but he was also a kind guy.
He was a super sweet guy.
He was so gentle, and he was a big guy. He was a tall, fit guy. He
worked out like a maniac.
Yeah, and he looked intimidating because he was, what do you say, he's Middle Eastern looking. And
he had that intense glare to him. Yeah.
He looked like he could be crazy and mean, but
no, he could be nicer.
He was so gentle. He was on your mom's house. When was the last time he did? When we were in Redondo, he came.
That long ago?
Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. I want to say he did. I don't remember him coming to the new one.
No, I don't remember seeing him in the studio. Anyways, he'll definitely be missed. He was very, very beloved by comedians and at least in this Los Angeles community. So
big hole. I mean, he's been around for so long too, and to not have him on a lineup is inconceivable to me that we won't see his name on a lineup.
I know. And just to think that I think the saddest thing to me would be that if he would have thought that he wasn't as beloved as he is.
I know. Well, I don't know.
He'll be really missed.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start crying again. We can't talk anymore.
All right. Love you, Brody Stevens.
Yes. Love you, Brody.